What's up, guys? So I'm here back with Richard from RCJB.
Pleasure to be here, guys.
Thank you, man. So after last video, it just stayed lingering in my head, and I wanted to kind of ask the questions like, first of all, how many projects do you have, like actively?
Right now, working on 3, 2 more under contract, hopefully a 3rd on the way.
Okay, perfect. So I know you're working on 3. That means your teams are actually working on them to be able to sell them, like flips, right?
Correct.
And the other ones are wholesales?
Correct.
What determines what you keep and what goes to somebody else?
So we typically have a set amount of projects that we can handle at one point in time. We don't want to overstretch ourselves. That's when you get into trouble. So we're pretty comfortable with the 3 that we have right now. And then the other 3 will provide value to another investor that wants to get in there and do the dirty work.
Cool. So it's not like, hey, man, this is a bad deal, let me pass it off.
No, it's not. We don't waste our time with deals that don't make sense. Anything that we offer out there has spread.
What happens if you come across a deal and it's not a good deal? Like, what do you, like, you've came with something, you're putting an offer, you're like, look, man, this is not going to work out. What happens at that moment?
Once we determine we're not going to get it to a number that makes sense, we'll let it go.
Okay, cool. So I kind of wanted to ask those questions because I know you guys. I know your deals are good. I've seen your deals. They're that good that I see other people adding their fees on top over and over and over, and still somebody buys them and makes some money on it. So obviously going to use direct, like it's the direct wholesaler. But I wanted people to kind of understand that, look, just because you're getting a deal from a wholesaler doesn't mean that it's a bad deal. I've gotten deals from a wholesaler, made a killing on them. And the way, I think your way is a little bit better. But the way the wholesaler reached out to me, he wasn't even an investor. He was like, look, man, I'm just looking for people that flip houses. If you have the money, I'll find you a house because I'm just trying to make this much money, right? You're finding deals that will be good for yourself, and you're just always looking for them to keep the pipeline full. And when you're tapped out on your budget, you're like, okay, look, these are extra. Who wants them?
Correct. Pretty simple.
Cool. But now, I know now you brought this up. You're like, look, man, if I could partner up with somebody, if you have somebody that has a budget and ready, we'll find them the properties. Like your system, the way you have I would call it your algorithm right now. If somebody tells me, look, I could have $500,000 to buy this type of property, you'll basically find it like this.
Yeah, correct. I mean, when someone's real and ready to go, they'll just come to us and say, look, this is what I'm looking for. And it's just, like you said, tweaking the algorithm. And then we're looking for that.
Now, if it's like an agent, let's say one of my agents has a client and he's like, no, well, why am I going to give it to them? Like, how does it work with the agents?
Oh, we always pay out to our agents.
So they don't lose their client. They could literally say, hey, look, my client is approved for this much money. He could buy this property. Can you help me achieve this? Because I know they don't have what you have.
Oh, yeah, of course. We work with agents all the time. Well, we're right up a JV, and everybody eats. Everybody gets paid. So all agents are always welcome.
Perfect. So, again, I know that for a fact. So I'm trying to make sure people understand that there is a system in place where if you as an agent and you don't realize, my agents get this all the time. Oh, I got somebody who wants to be an investor and they have this much money. They want to do this. Okay, where do they start? Okay, perfect. This is where they start. Okay, now how do I find them those houses? Okay, well, you got to look for them here and there. But if not, then guess what? We have these guys that specialize in this. They do this in like mass quantities. They do like search for properties all the time. So first start with them, see what they have available, right? Which I know you send out this list of properties. And second, what is your client looking for? Because maybe it's not available, but we can make it happen, right?
Of course. A simple phone call or a text. Let us know what you're looking for. And we get to work. That's what we do.
Now, perhaps the most interesting conversation I've had with you guys, not that you're not interested, I'm just saying, was the discussion we had on cash, which kind of led me into cap rates. And because the other day I sent you a video on Instagram about somebody talking about cap rates, and I was like cringing, just like, bro, what are you explaining? It doesn't make sense. Like, can you help me kind of break down a little bit, like we're talking about cap rates and versus cash on cash, like how you determine a good deal that you might want to keep?
Okay, so if you're going to look at it as cap rate, that means you're going in straight cash, and nobody does that. But that's the simplistic way to look at it. There's no other way for me to say it. At the end of the day, what matters is cash on cash. How much money am I actually putting into this deal, and what will my return be on that capital? That is what ultimately matters. So you have $1 million. Don't just go and buy $1 million property. Buy 5 properties. Give $200 down to each one of those. Your return is going to be exponential.
So I think this is a battle I have with So I have clients that have no money and want to buy a house. I have clients that have some money and want to buy a house. I have clients that have, let's say, they have a higher income and they're like, oh man, I just have 250. I want to buy a house, whatever. My biggest battle is trying to explain to them how to leverage their money, right? So I know that the cash on cash term that you're using is like where this comes down to.
Correct.
So can you give me an example? Like, let's look at an example of a property. What would it look like? Like if you were buying it on as a loan versus as a cash deal, or, you know, can you help me out with that a little bit?
So, okay, for example, the way we look at the deal is we reverse engineer it. That's the best way I can describe it. So we look at what is a property going to be worth once it's completely repaired, upgraded, and the tenants are in there. All right, so that's how much it's going to be worth. Then we'll run a scenario. We'll see what our mortgage payment is going to be. So we'll plug in whatever the rates may be at the time, put in taxes and insurance, whatever expense you may have, and then boom. So let's say, you know, mortgage payment is going to be $5,000. All in, taxes and insurance, PITI, all the fun stuff. Then if I know that property is going to be running out for, let's say it's a duplex, $3,500 for each side, that's $7,000 in total. So I'm going to be netting $2,000 a month, let's say, in this scenario. So 2,000 times 12 is $24,000. Property was, we said, let's say $800,000. Let's say I'm going to buy that or refinance it or whatever with an 80% loan. So then my all in the deal is going to be about $160,000.
Yeah.
Roughly. So 24 divided by 160, that's my cash on cash.
Yeah. So I think the point that we're trying to do with this is, hey, look, you bought a property with 160. Let's put it up to 180. Let's add like, you know.
Okay, yeah, the closing costs.
Let's say you're buying it with a DSCR loan, right? You're getting these loans that are qualifying you based on the rental of that property. Let's say you're doing it with that. You're saying, look, man, I bought this house with $180,000 and I'm getting back $24,000 a year, basically, right? Mm-hmm. You're dividing, that's how you're coming up with how much profit you're making. That to me is an investor mentality. That's what makes sense.
That's what makes
right?
sense.
But now let's say you're trying to buy the house cash, which is where you're talking about cap rates. You know, if you're doing it $800,000 and your total monthly income is $7,000, then your math is different. So my thing is, let's say, I think we kind of discussed this. This is not exact math. We're not breaking it down, but just kind of to say, let's say we were at 12%, more or less, in cap rate as using a loan, correct, using a DSCR loan. That is what you're actually making, versus when you're doing it all cash, you're somewhere like 9%.
Yeah.
Right. But what we said, well, me and you were laughing about it, saying, hey, look, you have $800,000 cash. Why don't we buy 4 properties, $200,000 down on each, and instead of making 12% on one, you make 12% on 4, which would be enhanced like 48%, which is a lot better than 9%.
That's when you see your return, exactly.
Yeah. No, but let's say you're not of an investor who has $1 million. Let's say you're trying to start. That is the goal. So the point is to start with little cash. And I know we broke down the same scenario, FHA. So let's say we went with FHA on a fourplex. For $800,000, you need, I think the down $28,000 was the down payment, right? Plus closing costs. Let's just rough it out to like $48,000, and you're still making like crazy percentage. I think the percentage was almost like 30%. 30%. It was really crazy. The return on investment, right? Now, what's crazy to me isn't to say, hey, look, I missed out because I already own a house, I can't go FHA. That's not the case. What I'm trying to say is, if you can buy an investment property with the smallest amount of money, get it now before like you miss the opportunity. Because as you make more money, or even as you make a profit from this one, you could buy another one next year, and then another one. So I guess I was thinking about this because I saw that video, and I think it was scaring people into knowing what a cap rate is. And people are talking about cap rate this, cap rate that, and the regular consumer doesn't know what a cap rate is, 4, 5, 6%, right? And the video that I was looking at was more talking about, hey, you brought a property up to the table like a couple of weeks ago, and people are like, oh, how much is it rent for? And you're like, it's currently rented for this amount. All right. But as professionals, we're responsible to say, how much is it that it could possibly rent for?
Of course, that's where the value is.
Like that is a business in itself. So this is where the business comes into. Sometimes you buy a property right now and you're like, this property rents for this amount, so I'm only making this much. But how much money does it take, or what do I have to do to get that property into make me this much more money? And then forget about that. I saw another guy talking about, he was like, look, I don't fix up properties. I buy them, and every year I raise the rent by $50. Like that alone, because I multiply 4 units times $50, I make $200 extra a month. But every year on year, I'm making more and more money, and I'm not investing a penny into it until the tenants move out. When the tenants move out, then I come in, I do what I got to do. Knowledge, when it comes to this, is power. I think dealing with professionals, people that have gone through it, you've gone through it. Crash and burn. I wouldn't say you've done that, but I know I've hit a couple walls, especially dealing with tenants and knowing when to remodel, whatever, and when to figure out if it's a good deal or a bad deal. Do you like rentals more than you like flips, or do you like flips more than you like rentals?
Well, that's a good question. At the end, wealth is what we're all striving for. Rentals is going to get you to that because that's cash flowing. With flips, you're a hunter. You're always looking for that next deal. Yeah, the reward is, obviously going to be more than a month's worth of rent, but you're always hunting. As opposed to rentals, you're building wealth, you're building equity.
The tax benefits are also...
Oh, the tax benefits are insane. So flips is a good way to make money. Don't get me wrong, but to me, the long-term wealth is going to be with rentals.
So the reason I was asking the question, actually, I'm glad you answered it and leaned my way, because if not, I wouldn't know what to say. I think people are discouraged, and I know I had a friend of mine that is very wealthy and did it through rentals. And he said, look, man, I'm not worried about making money off my rentals. I'm worried about breaking even. And then I worried about once I have the property, then I figure out how to make money with it. So for example, he not that you do this, but everybody does this. He's like, not everybody does this. He was like, look, let's say the property, I'm in it, my mortgage, everything in it, I'm in at $2,000. If I could rent the property for $2,200, he's like, I'm happy. Number one, I'm already into this, so I already have more property, so I get tax benefits. So I count the tax benefit, the discount towards me. So my tax benefit on that property might save me, let's say, on a safe side, $6,000. That's an extra $500 a month. So that's like if I was making $700 profit. So he looked at it that way, but he said, look, my issue is I raise these people's rents slowly every single year, guarantee me to control what I make. Now, things happen sometimes, and I know, like he gave me an example of a particular property. He said, look, I'm under the rent on this property. Like this neighborhood rents for $1,500 each of these units I can rent it, and I'm at $1,200. Now, I'm not going to get the clients I have because I bought it like this, so I'm going to slowly tell them, look, this is what your rent is supposed to be. You're not there, but I'm going to raise it. So I'm being fair, give them a chance to catch up, but I know what I can control, what it is. Now he's like, look at this other property. I just put in $20,000 into it. I need to make that back up, and I know that I can control it. So what's beautiful about this is that I buy a property and I can control how much I can make. And he said, show me another property. That's why I don't disclose what it is. He was like, look, this is the average rent, and I'm above that.
Oh, yeah, it happens.
You know what I'm saying? But I control it. The market didn't determine what I rented my property for. I decided what it was worth, and I did things that I liked, that I figured out designs like that I thought hiring people would pay, and I controlled who rented it. So what he said basically was like, I could control, irrelevant of where the market is, how much I make per property.
Yeah, you basically control when you give yourself a raise. And that was a great example. If your property is unique enough and you can market it to a certain clientele, like, give you an example. If you're a tradesman, if you're a roofer, mechanical, plumber, electrician, you can't live in an HOA.
No.
You can't live in a condo. So if you identify a property that has a nice lot, a backyard, you're going to collect a premium on that, and you market it to those folks that need that kind of property. And that's something that you control.
Yeah, that I didn't even think about it like that. I'll say more like the higher end, but that is a great point. I had a neighbor who used to ask me to rent part of my yard so he could put his trucks. The other thing was, so we haven't even throwing the sprinkle of Airbnb into this. We're talking about basic rentals. So I think if you have questions, you've been thinking about buying, and you're thinking, I want to get into this business, because I know a lot of people are saying don't buy. don't buy a house. It's better to rent. And I'm like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
Buy a
doesn't make
house.
sense.
Buy a property for you to live in. Then worry about investments. So my thing is, I rather believe in snowballing. Snowballing is buy a property that you could afford now, live it for a year, and if you're not comfortable living there, rent it out, and then buy the other one when you can. So as long as you leave the property with the intentions as a primary residence, like you're moving in there for a year, you're doing what the bank asked you to do, and next year you could buy another primary. So as long as there's a physical benefit, like a bigger property, you could do this every single year.
Correct.
Now, that would be my first step. Now, if you're already own a house and you are going to an investment, let's discuss what options you have. Or do you have cash? How much money do you have down? What are you looking for? And maybe we could kind of help you understand is this a good deal? How to find a good deal? What makes sense and why does it make sense? You know, I think one of the last videos I did, I was talking about how I bought a property one time just so I could have a tax benefit that year. I'm like, I got to buy something before the year ends. And I didn't even think I was going to make money. I ended up making a profit and getting the tax benefits. So I think everybody's completely different. Like I know that I hear conversations from clients. We get clients all the time. Well, so-and-so did this and they did that. I'm like, look, man, everybody's different. I know you have a set mentality. So as a real business investor who has multiple properties, you're looking at numbers. And we kind of broke that down already. But let's say you're looking at more than numbers because you have a personal situation like you're self-employed and you need expenses, or you're not self-employed. This is, I think, the most beautiful thing I've heard. I've had people today, like in today's market, where as a couple they make W-2 income, let's say $150,000, and they're paying in taxes, like W-2 taxes and everything, like almost $50,000. Right? And they're like giving that away to the IRS. And I'm like, well, why don't we use some of that money so you could buy an investment? So buy an investment. And now that investment has expenses, losses, repairs, depreciation. Now, maybe you're not sending this to the IRS $50,000. Maybe you only send them $25,000, $30,000. But you're basically year over year, irrelevant as to what the property's giving you, you're having almost $20,000 in savings.
Yeah.
Like that alone is worth the value. So the conversation for all the people today that, oh, I don't want to buy, oh, it's not making sense to buy, the rates are too high, all of this, understand that how much you're giving away to the IRS could be used to fund your next purchase and give you discounts the following year in your tax benefits.
100%.
You know, so let's sit down, let's talk about it. If you have any questions, obviously you can reach out to me, William Ledesma, or Richard from RCJB. Say your last name because I always get it wrong.
Barthelemy.
We're here to help, especially if you're looking to invest. Like you want to deal with people that know what they're doing, that have hit many walls and could help you understand. Look, this doesn't work like this. This is clearly this situation. You know,
and that's we do a lot of that. We'll have clients that'll come up and say, "Look, I have $250K. I'm going to go buy a condo cash." Maybe that's exactly what they're looking for whatever reason. But, then we'll explain to them, look, if you have that, look what you can accomplish through leverage. Numbers don't lie. They speak for themselves. And once you take into account what you can do with that $250K leveraged, it blows it out of the water.
Yeah. So, guys, I think this video is something you should save and just keep it to understand a couple different variations as to what's going on when you're looking to invest. But know that there's people out there that could help you understand. I'll tell you why I thought about this this little part that I'm talking about right now is because I speak to many, many people and they're like, this is what I'm looking for. I'm like, okay, but I already have a realtor. I already have a lender. I'm like, okay, but understand that your realtor and your lender haven't helped you accomplish to find this. What is the difference with us, or at least with me, is that I deal and network with people like you, investors, and I say, hey, look, can you use another investor? Can you use another partner? What do you have that's there to give people this? So I had a conversation with a gentleman the other day, and he was like, look, man, I just want to look for this. And I said, okay, well, no, this house is already sold at an end user full price because it's being remodeled. He's like, okay, no, but I want this. Okay, cool. That you're looking for something for $350 in this area and you want something to fix up. Yeah, but I already have my people to find. Okay, I understand. If you allow me, I could probably send you. Oh, you can send me properties. Yeah, I have people that look for properties all the time. I just need to know what your criteria is. Oh, okay, cool. This is where they all get baffled. How can you show me that you're able to buy something for $350? Like, do you have a cash? Do you have a proof of funds letter? Or do you have a loan? You know, that's where we get into.
Of course.
Oh, no, I went through so-and-so bank. Let me not say the name of the bank. And they approved me for this. I'm like, well, that bank doesn't do that kind of loans. They approve you. Oh, no, it's to live. I'm like, let's talk. This is a different conversation. Now, you're not going to finance a house that's destroyed as a regular primary residence, and you can't use that to flip. So, guys, there's so many different details, so many different things that go into the options that you have when you want to invest, that a 3-minute conversation with me or with somebody who has the experience might help guide you. Say, okay, how can I accomplish this? I'm not being negative. I'm being super positive about this. We can make it happen. But knowing the next steps is the most important part.
No, for sure. I mean, and like, great example, Willie. There's loans for fix and flips. A lot of people don't understand that. I mean, when we first started, we didn't even know that existed. But there's loans that are tailored for this to get you into the fix and flip. They'll finance the rehab. And that's how you really grow capital, by doing that. You know, you're not going to go to, you know, a big box bank and get a loan for this. It's not going to happen.
I think that is crucial. That is crucial to understand what your next step is. So, guys, thank you for being here. I appreciate you coming here and helping me out with this. And if you guys have any questions, you know, DM us, message us. We'll be glad to answer any questions that you have.